You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 68, and I'm really excited to introduce to you the amazing Jo today, because I met Jo in person a year ago, but probably online even a year before that. So it's really nice to actually stay connected, and like Jo is just the most fun loving person I've seen. She knows how to how to have a good time. We've got the same taste in music, and also same love of bright colours, which Jo is wearing orange today. She came equipped, for those that are watching in person, and for those that are obviously listening, she's wearing orange, right? But yes, Jo, please introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
I don't know if I can follow that introduction. That was so lovely. I'm Jo. We met about a year ago in person at another lady who we've got in common, my coach Nikki's Women's Day. Just hit it off straight away. Again, got lots in common, probably lots of similar traumas, similar sort of living in that masculine energy for so long.
Definitely
being the protector and the provider, and just being so wholly independent, and then kind of coming into the realization that's not the best way to do things, and getting to the point where sort of finally realized that it's down to us to kind of break the cycle.
Definitely.
Break the cycle of the trauma, and obviously have fun doing it, but it's also hard work. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today, because we've got a lot in common.
Oh, it's so nice for you to be here and hold the space like with you, because I think that really is it. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I feel like just starting the podcast just off of a whim, because people were like, you need to start a podcast, and then just, I guess, sharing my story more and more, it's kind of bring everyone that's experienced similar things out of the woodwork. And that's your tribe, right? It's like your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think it's such a wonderful thing, because I know a lot of us that have been those strong, independent women have just felt quite lonely in our lives. Like, we've had lots of people around us, but we felt like maybe not everyone got what we were going through, or we weren't sharing it, right? So I think now, letting that armor down and like inviting everyone into this space for me is such a beautiful thing, because I'm like, I know that I feel seen for doing it, and I hope that whoever's listening to this as well feels the same, like through hearing both of our stories, really, more than anything. So do you want to give us like a little bit, well, first of all, tell us what it is you do now, and then we'll work backwards as to why you're now doing that.
Okay. So I do a lot of things now. I wear a lot of hats. So first and foremost, I'm a mum.
Yes.
12-year-old son, single parent, although his dad is in his life, which I'm grateful for. I work full time as well, in global e-commerce, so strategic account management, and then I also bodybuild. So this year, for the first time ever, I've been competing in bodybuilding. Very random how I got into it, but I absolutely love it. And I've also, over the last couple of years specifically, like really gone into my healing journey off the back of coming out of a really abusive relationship, and I wouldn't say it was my first abusive relationship. There was a pattern
Mm.
of pretty much being in long-term abusive stroke toxic relationships from the age of about 15 to 43, and that's a long time. That's a lot to unpack, and you will know that a lot of that unpacking actually begins before that first relationship. It's to do with like the childhood trauma. So off the back of that, I've been really like delving into all sorts of healing, all sorts of training. So I'm now a qualified somatic trauma informed coach. I've qualified in narcissistic abuse specialist more recently. I'm doing positive psychology coaching practitioner at the moment. So really just kind of like on the sides, helping women alongside my own healing journey,
Mm.
with sort of resolving their trauma and finding out what's kind of blocking them from achieving their goals. And again, like just the community. I mean, the community on Instagram was a godsend for me in COVID anyway. Like I was never on socials before that. And I went on at a really difficult time in my life because I couldn't get to my boxing gym, and they were doing like free lives on Instagram, and I was like, well, I need to do this. And I can only say positives from it, like the fitness community and now the healing community, and just women really, really supporting women is so lovely, because
Mm.
I think we miss a trick when we don't do that. Like,
Absolutely.
you know, we really do. And I kind of think, sort of swinging back to what we were saying about um, the independence and being the protector and the provider and being the strong masculine one, I actually feel really there's more strength in being vulnerable and authentic.
Mm.
It takes so much more strength to face that trauma and go through that pain. But it's also, it's kind of like without that experience, you can't really experience the beauty of life either. And
Absolutely.
you were touching on this earlier on some of your stories when you're talking about grief. And yeah, one way is just to like block it out and not feel it, but then you don't feel the joy either. And
Mm.
it makes you sick. Like it makes you sick. Like we say, the body keeps score. Either it will affect your mental health, or you'll end up with like an autoimmune disease like IBS, fibromyalgia. Like all these things are linked to not dealing with what's going on emotionally, because society just teaches us to suppress and suppress, and it's just so sad. So I'm kind of just like preach all the time, but I try to live that as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you have to live it. And I think that, from doing your own healing journey, it's so beautiful now that you're dedicated to helping other women do the same. And I think that's obviously a common thread that we both had really is
Yeah.
that thing because it's just exhausting, isn't it? Carrying the weight of everything. And I think that probably similar to you is that I didn't know there was another way. I
No, you
didn't
don't.
know.
That's the sad thing. You
Yeah,
don't.
and that's what I was saying, so Joe, whenever you listen to this, like listeners, is that I had a funeral for my auntie yesterday, and then it brought up all the emotions of grief and the feelings, and obviously because I'd been so numb to it when I'd went through all of the deaths I went through when I was younger, I kind of just built this immune system to death. And now that I've obviously let go of all of those walls and the armor that I was, protecting myself with artificially, I now feel everything so deeply. So I was just being honest with the fact that, grief is something we have to allow ourselves to feel. We have to allow that loss to move through our body. And even today, I'm still feeling it. And I'm really honoring that for myself to be like, it's just okay, and I'm so into spirituality and I understand that the soul is eternal and all these beautiful things, but as a human, we are going to feel the loss of that person in our
100%.
lives.
100%. And again, like I can relate to that because in June I lost my uncle.
Yeah.
You probably remember. And it was very, very sudden. Like he's only like 5 years older than me, so he's like my brother. We grew up
Mm.
together. And I was in the middle of prep and everything, and I think I've been really, really poorly, um, which I'm never really poorly. The last sort of like 3 weeks, I actually had to take 10 days out of training, which is unheard of. no training, no steps. I was just utterly exhausted. And I think part of that is being on prep, but part of that was also the fact that I was really pushing to try and get to the point where, because I knew there was a block with the grief. Like I knew I was kind of trying to keep myself busy and do stuff, and I could feel it like physically in my chest. And so I was doing everything. I was going to breath work. I was I went to see a medium. That was all of this kind of stuff. I think we had a conversation about stars and all that kind of stuff because I was trying to get into that. And it was literally like the day before I got really, really sick, I went for 3 hours one-on-one somatic healing, and so much came up. Like so much came up, not just from the grief of the recent loss, but previous stuff.
Absolutely.
And my body, emotionally, mentally, physically, just went, no, you need to rest. You need to slow
Absolutely.
down. And that's what we don't do because we're kind of like afraid of it.
Mm. And that's the old cycle repeating itself when you don't want to stop to feel like it's the numbing yourself. And even today, like I really I'm aware of what I need to do and actually just really tuning into myself. Like part of me wants to do absolutely nothing, but I have a really strong feeling of I need to just get out and move. Like my body needs to move today. And I
Yeah.
feel like because I've had obviously calls all day, I'm like, now I'm ready to just get out, get some fresh air in my lungs and just do things on my own because I've got a like a family meal this evening. So I'm like, right, I need time on my own. I need to just keep connected to me. And I think this is what's beautiful is that when you take away those things that keep you going, like the numbing things like overworking, overachieving, when you strip all of that back, you can actually listen to and feel your intuition tell you what is the right thing for me to do now. And that is really for me, that's your inner power part, is when you can connect to
Yeah.
that.
And oh my gosh, intuition. Like I just always remember as a kid being so in tune and being like, I'm definitely empathetic, like I'm definitely an empath, and just being able to like read the room and feeling like the bad energy, the good energy, and it used to get me in trouble a lot for like because I was very like feisty and standing up. And at some point, with the perceived childhood trauma, you kind of like step back from that and you stop trusting that and you shut the
Mm.
feelings down and you stop feeling it. Sorry, that's my dog
So,
barking at the door. But I definitely know now that all the work I've done, like I am feeling it, my intuition's much more there. And weirdly, I knew that something was going to happen. So like the week leading up to his death, and I'm like very positive. Like I spend a lot of time on mindset and gratitude and everything because I used to be really negative. And I was getting in the car, and every time I got in the car, I was feeling like thinking about bad crashes and stuff. And this was coming from like nowhere. And I was thinking, I really need to spend time with my dad. I really need to spend time with Gran, and I really need to spend time with. I really need to call Tim. So it was my dad's brother, my Gran's son. And literally the day before, I remember getting in the car, thinking about really bad crashes, and then thinking, Jo, you've not had anyone pass suddenly. You've been very lucky, like I've had grandparents go and stuff, but you've not had anyone go dramatically. And at some point, that's going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with it. And then I just remember this sense of calm coming over me, going, "But you're best equipped to deal with it now because the work's
mm,
done." And then the next day, I was the one that took the call.
gosh.
It's just mad, but like, so spirituality, intuition, energy, like whatever you want to call it, whether it's God that you believe in, or
Mm,
like, it's definitely a thing. We're all connected, and there is like that energy, and you can feel that, but you have to be in tune with yourself. If you're not in tune with yourself,
definitely.
you're not gonna be in tune with what's going on around you.
Yeah, I completely resonate with that as well because I remember having a dream about crashing into water, and the next day I aquaplaned into a like a hedge, and it was just so funny because at the time I
Give me
remember
an
having
example.
Yeah, having that dream, and this was before my healing journey, by the way, so I didn't couldn't put two and two together
Yeah.
as clear as that, but obviously the universe was clearly telling me something, and I remember thinking about that dream, and then it was for me, I was driving, so where I live in Kent to Croydon is like death road, you know, like as in like you're just gridlocked all the way in the morning. I was going to teach at a school, and I remember just about to miss that turning, so I just did a quick lock round with the wheel to spin off, and then the car just didn't turn, and it just went straight aquabladed over a hedge. And I remember seeing it all in slow motion and being like, "What the?" And I remember even still in the bush trying to start the car to just reverse out of it like it was going to be okay. I was like, I was in autopilot, you know. I
You
was thinking,
really
I need to make this work.
don't they? Like the brain is just, well, the brains, the three brains that we have are just insane. And the nervous system, honestly, the more I learn about the nervous system, the more I'm like, why do we not get taught this in schools? Why
Absolutely.
why is the medical profession, as in like the NHS and that, they don't seem to be trauma informed? Why are
Absolutely.
they not trauma informed? And it's like, I went to a Gabba Mate seminar a few weeks ago, and it's like actually a lot of this stuff has been around for years, hundreds of years. Some of it,
Yeah.
like we know it. Why is it not out there, and why are we not applying it in everyday life? And that's another reason why I like read up as much as possible, podcast and that. I want my boy to know about this because I
Absolutely.
he's experienced trauma in his life, whether he realizes it or not. I know, from being around toxic relationships and stuff like that. And it's like, I want him equipped to be able to not make
Mm,
mistakes I did, because you don't realize that you're constantly in this loop of repeating the cycle, not just the cycle of your trauma, but 7 generations back, where we're
absolutely.
in your DNA and stuff. And it's just,
Mm. It's so important. I mean, you're speaking my language, Joe. Like this is literally all of everything I'm talking about all the time.
yeah,
And it's so important. And this is why for me, like I have such a well, I just absolutely hate tablets at the best of times, but antidepressants for me are just not the answer. And I think that I've had a lot of debates with people that work in mental health and doctors around this as well. And most of them are actually admitting the fact that it isn't a long-term thing, but that they're so overrun that they can't prescribe them anything else. And I'm like, they need to be prescribing them holistic practices.
yeah, go and have a yoga session is probably the best thing without even having to explain to anyone. I mean, I don't practice yoga myself, but I think I'm going to have to take it up because I can see, like, from a lot of research, that somatically, that
Mm,
really, really helps you to be in the present and be in your body.
well,
And
that's
that's
it.
it. We've got the power within to be able to heal ourselves. If you cut your finger, you don't sit there picking at it going, oh, I don't trust my body to heal that.
Mm,
you know your body
absolutely.
feels it. And the emotional system is identical to the immune system. It literally is. And if like anger is a healthy emotion, that is a way of our body protecting us from something it perceives as dangerous, in the
Yeah.
same way that the immune system builds up the white blood cells. So you have the ability to heal your body. And things like cancer and stuff, a lot of the time is because you're suppressing that emotion. Because if you suppress
Exactly that.
your emotion, you're suppressing the immune system at the same time. It's
Mm,
got to come out somewhere. It like lives in the cells.
absolutely that. And that's literally the conversations I've been having so much recently about that. I think people are starting to be more informed of that as well, which is great. But again, like you said, it needs to be taught in schools. And this is kind of the reason why I do my program in the schools as well, for that reason.
That's
So
is that the dance one that you do? You mean?
no, that's just the mental health and wellbeing one, the permission
Oh,
to shine. So that's for women, yeah, the girls in the schools. So that's obviously now starting up again, which is amazing. But again, just trying to spread that far and wide, really, for this reason, so we can give the younger generation the tools
yeah.
that we wish we had when we were their age, right? So then it stops the cycle perpetuating well, at least we give them the tools to do that, and they'll figure it out for themselves. But I guess for me, really, I mean, you've obviously done a lot of research, done a lot of investment into yourself to, join the dots of why you're the way you are. But what was that real moment for you that like gave you that permission to shine, that where you were like, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm not going to feel this way again?
I think I've probably had many moments like that in my life. Um, and usually that would be when I finally got fed up with how I was being treated in a relationship, which now I can look back and say, well, I've got to take some responsibility for that as well, because I didn't realise that unresolved trauma in me was attracting certain things. And I would be like, right, I'm done. I'm going to get my confidence back. I'm going to probably go down the overachieving route, or, get a new tattoo, go and do Tough Mudder. I've lost count of the amount of times I've done that, whatever challenge it may be. I think the difference, and then I'd end up in another relationship. So
Mm,
start again. I think the difference this time round was the accumulation of everything. Like, I always had a really good career. I always worked really hard. And I always had my health to a degree.
yeah.
And then I think what happened was I pretty much lost everything all at once when I was in the last relationship. So I went through the divorce with my boy's dad in COVID, and I won't go into too much
No.
about that because of my boy. So I lost my home. We were in like an Airbnb for like 6 weeks before I got my actual home. So there was a lot of upheaval. Obviously, the world turned upside down for everyone anyway. It was a lot harder.
Mm,
I'm an extrovert, so being not around people and on your own, and also going through a divorce is very stressful. And I rebounded into out the frying pan into a fire, into a really
mm,
bad relationship with a guy that was a covert narcissist, who was serial cheat. He was freeloading off me, very like emotionally abusive, occasionally physically abusive. It was just like, like the stonewalling, the threatening to kill themselves, blah, blah, blah.
mm,
And then I lost my job because of COVID. And then also I was going through perimenopause without kind of realizing. And I now know as well, I'm like 99.9% sure without an official diagnosis, that there's ADHD, like
mhm.
massively ADHD. And I think perimenopause exasperates that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have my normal outlets. I didn't have going to the gym. I didn't have, a challenge in my life. And I was just like, I got to December 2022, and I was like, I've got to do something about this. I can't be in this relationship. I need to get myself back, get back my confidence. And so I think that was the point. And then it was all just, I'd always been very into psychology. I wanted to be a criminal psychologist when I was younger. And like I said, I've always been empathetic. So I've always been interested in people. So I was always reading stuff in the background. And I'm a big person on words. Like, I love words. I'm always thousands and thousands of quotes. Like, if you were to see my homepage on Instagram, it's sausage dogs and quotes about healing or narcissistic abuse or something. That's all it is in the gym. Um, and that led me on the path to Nikki. But weirdly, I knew nothing about the trauma side of stuff with Nikki. I knew nothing about the holistic side. I thought she was a wellness coach, and it was just about losing weight. Now, I didn't need to lose weight because I've never been overweight. I was always exercising. But I was like, oh, I need a challenge. If I've got a challenge, I'll get my confidence back and I'll leave this man. So I thought, let me do nutrition. Never done it. I thought this is going to be a big challenge because I like my mini eggs, and I used to just eat everything in sight. And I went down that route. I gave myself 6 months to get rid of him. I got rid of him within about 2, 3 months. I also got my sausage dog who just fell into my lap at the right time. He was like
Mm.
a therapy dog. I think after 2 weeks of getting him, I got rid. And I think this time the difference was I didn't date, I didn't go back into a relationship. I solely focused on me. And
Mm.
like, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so grateful for that relationship and those circumstances because I needed to be broken. I was too
Mm.
strong, for want of a better word. And you can probably relate to this,
Mm.
where whatever you threw at me, I was just going to keep getting up and keep going and keep going and keep going. I was in what you call functional freeze or high
Yeah.
functioning freeze. Like some people deal with trauma by just like being depressed and not moving off the sofa. That's not me. I'm like going to keep going and going and going and going. So the universe needed to send me something pretty drastic to make me go, stop, you will stop now.
Yeah.
And all sorts of random little things like I broke my toe, so I couldn't, to the point where I couldn't put a shoe on for 3 months. So my running, I couldn't run. That was like my, so it was like you were gonna, and my back went, I think as well. It was like you were gonna sit still
Mm.
and
The
you're going,
universe said, stop.
yeah, stop. And fortunately, I listened this time. Um, and I would say, like, pretty much from there on in, just all little things that I put into place. It's all the little habits, isn't it? So, like,
Mm.
journaling. I mean, I cannot recommend that enough if you're just starting out, if you're in a really bad place, that if you do one thing, I would do that. And you've not even got to feel it when you start it. Don't worry about feeling it. Just write down what you think you should feel grateful for.
Absolutely. I
Like,
love journaling.
yeah. And now I journal massively. Like, I journal everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
journal all the time.
Me too. I feel like though for us as a people that, the strong ones that we keep talking about, that was such an easy outlet for me to be able to write it down without sharing it because
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell people how I was feeling. All of my friends, I was there for everyone else. No one actually knew how I truly felt inwardly. Like I was just crumbling. I'd say the inside of me was like sand. There was no structure at all. I was just crumbling at every given moment. So when I did start, and I'd always journaled a little bit throughout my life, but when I started to really focus in on how I was feeling and pouring that into the pages, that created the openings for me in all the different ways. And it's really funny, you said something really important there about how like the universe forced you to stop, but the lessons from the universe get harder the more we ignore them, right? So like you physically needed to have a broken toe to stop you from taking on fitness challenges. Do you know what I mean? Oh, you'd have been out there.
I was still squatting barefoot. I'm not gonna lie, but it did like just, and COVID as well. It taught me to slow down
Me
because
too.
and so I have to kind of be grateful for that as well. And yeah, just all those things happening at once. Because otherwise you just feel like you're invincible and you just
Absolutely.
keep going. And it's weird because now I feel like I'm an invincible, but in a different way. It's
Yeah.
like I know no matter what you throw at me, even if it
Mm.
hurts, I know I'm strong enough to face that. And
Well,
it's
it's
not about being happy all the time because you can't be happy all the time, but it's about knowing that it's okay to not feel okay and just to go with it.
Yeah, and it's the internal strength, isn't it now? It's not like it was an outside thing. And I talk about this quite a lot in a lot of the talks that I do. It's like you've rooted yourself so deeply in your inner knowing that no matter what like a tree, no matter what the wind blows or, snow, whatever, your roots are so grounded that nothing's going to phase you. You're going to stay like
Yeah.
strong, really, in who you are in every part of it, from the inside out. And I think that's really what we get wrong in society is that especially with patriarchy, I think that we as strong women fell into the category of thinking, oh, well, men are doing it this way, so let's do it this way
Yeah.
too, because that clearly works. When actually, that was the biggest lie ever told.
It doesn't work because we're built for emotional connection and you can't connect to anything or anyone else if you're not connected to yourself.
Absolutely that.
And it's
Preach.
like I realise now all these like crazy relationships that I was getting in, and all this empathy that I felt for everybody else, and still I still do, but I know now I'm like, okay, what another light bulb moment was, oh, I'm feeling all this empathy and all this sadness and emotion because I'd feel for others and not for myself. And I'd realise I'm feeling that for them because something in their unresolved trauma is resonating in my childhood.
Mm,
Actually, I need to be fixing myself, not trying to fix others,
yep.
you know?
And I was going to say that's a key part because I feel like I was the same trying to fix people, and mine wasn't necessarily in relationships. I was just doing that in everyday life people. Yeah, like just my friends and family, like, and then I was enabling bad behavior because I wasn't allowing them to learn for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Like completely agree. And it's like that compassion that you give to everyone else, you need to give to yourself. And that's where the healing comes from. Getting
Mm,
curious, being aware, and being compassionate. All that's needed is like a safe place for you to be your authentic self, and your body will do it. It's like I used to wonder why I used to rush around like a lunatic all day and then get in bed knackered but not be able to sleep, and not be able to go to sleep in silence. I'd go stir crazy. I'd have to have the telly on, I'd have to have the radio on, I'd want to pick a fight with partner at that time. And now I know it's like, of course, Joe, because you lived your life in fight.
mm-hmm.
When you go to sleep, or you lay down to go to sleep, your body goes, oh, we're safe now. Now we're going to do all the healing. So it's not just about healing the physical that's going on. It's like we're going to heal the emotional. And that's why all the anxieties and everything come up. Now I sleep like a baby.
Mm, absolutely that. Me too. And it's funny because I think I've said this many a times. I should just cry myself to sleep because exactly that.
Yeah.
Everything else stops. So then
Mm.
all the emotions purge up to the surface. And actually, that was the only way I did get to sleep because again, I was just in this like vortex of self-loathing and feeling unloved and unvalued and unseen, so then all the emotions came up and just purged out and I just fell to sleep to that. Whereas obviously now I've got such a set routine of how I do go to sleep. Like I say, a routine, a ritual. I have a ritual that I use because I feel like this is another thing I'm being more conscious of, is the language we use around
Yeah.
these things. Like my mentor at the moment, she says about, instead of saying discipline, it's devotion, because that is such a beautiful feminine way to look at the practices we do. Like, for example, you've said like, obviously the somatic stuff, obviously you love the gym. There's things that you do in your life that are your routine or discipline, but actually if we change the way it sounds, it's like, for me today, like I said, knowing that I need to move my body, that's me in devotion to my body.
Yeah.
That's not me disciplining myself to get to the gym. It's like, no, I know my body just needs to move today in whatever capacity. If I go today and I can only lift a 5K weight, that's all I can do today. And that's okay. Um, there's no goal at the end of it. It's the feeling of doing it. I think that's
Yeah.
for me.
Oh, I love that. Love that. Yeah. And I actually think also like being in prep has been like the making of me as well.
Yeah. Talk to
Like
me about that.
it's well, it's very much devotion.
Yeah.
Like it's, I mean, if you'd said to me, I'm gonna have someone telling me what to eat, when, how much water to drink, how many steps to take, like, it's very rigid, and how much sleep,
Mm,
like 2 years ago, I'd have been absolutely not. Like I loved exercise, but I'd rock up and do whatever I fancied, Whereas
mm,
now I have to train certain things, certain days in a certain way. I have to rest when I'm told. Um, but I think especially the um with the way Tim passed, I actually was grateful for it, because I think the old me, you know what it's like when you go through really bad times, you don't have your self-care in place really.
yeah.
I either maybe wouldn't have eaten at all,
Hmm.
or I'd have stuffed my face at some point with a takeout and 35 bags of Haribo. I probably would have run 20,000 miles, even though I had no energy in me, you know, like all
Mm,
kind of like extreme coping mechanisms.
yeah,
Because I was on prep and I have, well, I still am, I have boxes that I just need to tick. It took like the emotion away from it. It
yeah,
was, it was like a ritual. It's like, well, I know I've got to eat the same food day in, day out, so I don't have to think about it. And it just meant that I had the basic self-care in place to give my nervous system that little bit more of a break to be able to deal with the high stress load of grieving and stuff. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard work, but I love it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important there because like I talk about feminine energy a lot, and I feel like what I've been trying to add in more now is the integration of the masculine energy and why it's important. So I think you having the food prep and knowing exactly when to eat and what to eat is the masculine structure that you needed. So
Yeah,
then your feminine energy could feel the emotions and the
yeah,
feelings it needed to. So
yeah,
it actually supported you so much in just being able to just, yeah, grieve fully, like in that space. And I think so many of us don't give ourselves that. And that's something that I do with my clients. It's like, how can we create routine in your life? And they're like, what? And I'm like, they're like, I don't have a routine. I'm like, well, there you go. Like, this is a massive part of your life. Like, and as humans, we love comfort, we love what we know. So when you can create just pillars of that one thing that you do every day that your body knows, like for example, you've got set times you probably eat and exactly what you eat. But for someone that doesn't have that, just prepping like one meal a day for themselves, wouldn't that like a difference that makes? I'm sure at the start of your nutrition journey, that probably looked the same, right?
yeah. And I mean, prior to the nutrition journey, if I didn't have my boy, I wouldn't even think about it. It's not that I don't like cooking. It's just, and I don't know if this is part of the ADHD thing, but it's just not something that enters my head. In the same way, I'm not someone that really goes to the hairdressers regularly. It doesn't come into my head. I would just be like, oh, suddenly I realise I'm hungry, or suddenly I realise I need the toilet. I've been sat there for 10 hours in hyper focus. It's like, so actually, as much as I was always a fly by the seat of my pants sort of person and still am, and like the excitement of being spontaneous, actually, I thrive better under routine.
Mm.
And it really does help calm the ADHD.
Yeah, that's so like so important. And when I work with either adults that have ADHD or, when I'm talking to people with kids, it is that they just like people like what they like. And I think when we can really hone in on that, again, like the other side of your brain has the space to just play because it knows that there's anchors that are
Yeah,
keeping it in place. It's
100%.
just so important. Um, so what are you working on at the moment then? What's going down in a minute?
Wow, I've somehow managed to get myself into the PCA British finals and the FitX British finals.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty proud of that. I'm trying to learn to celebrate my wins because I
Mm.
didn't really do that before. So I have the PCA ones on the 20th of October, and the FitX ones on the 2nd of November. So really most of my concentration's on that. And it's kind of got to a little bit of the frustrating part of the journey because I've been in prep for so long. Like I think it's about 39, 40 weeks.
Wow.
Um, it's started to take a toll now on my nervous system. So, because it's obviously you're in a deficit, low body fat. I've been stage ready probably pretty much since June. So I'm kind of having to listen to Nikki and listen to my body and rest more than I'm training. Just
Mm.
sort of like taking it day by day. Because like weirdly I've been having I'm anaphylaxis with nuts, but over the last couple of weeks I've been getting like mini allergic reactions every day.
Oh,
Like
wow.
lips swelling and my chest's getting tight and dizzy and stuff. And it's just the fact that the nervous system is kind of like, and this again
Yeah.
shows you how it's all related.
Connected. Yeah.
It's just like, right, we've had enough now, and the histamine's quite high because it's like we want you to stop now. So I'm just going to get to those finals, and then I'm going to reverse out healthily. And obviously the normal work and stuff's going on. My boy, bless him, has just started a new school. He
Oh,
wants to be a professional rugby player. So
nice.
he is literally doing more training probably than I am. So there's a lot of ferrying him around when I've got him and supporting him in his new school, because he's taking up every sport going, which I love. It's great. Being active is so important. So I want that for him. And then in the background, I'm planning to finish this positive psychology practitioner. So yeah, that's kind of me at the minute. I can't wait to get out and have a dance, because I've been banned from going out and dancing for a long time now.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. But when you start to phase out and you get back into your normal routine, I'm sure that'll be a lovely welcome, won't it, into
Yeah,
life?
go and have a dance and be able to have. This sounds so funny. Everyone's like, "What are you so desperate to eat when you finish prep?" I'm like, I just want to be able to have more Pepsi Max in my life. Because I've been like down to like one or two a day, like through most of prep, and I'm like, I need more. It's like what some people's coffee is.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how we all have our little vices. It's really funny because I think before I'd done my healing work, I craved sugar so much. Like I loved sugar, whereas now I'm like a give or take. Like I used to always need a dessert, like all of
Yeah,
these things. Now I just don't really crave as much sugar at all.
I'm not gonna lie, that's the other thing, and I think there's kind of like a parallel to prep and healing work, in the sense of the cleaner I eat with prep, the more then I realise when I put rubbish stuff back in my body, the effect that it has on it. And it's kind of like
Mm,
the same with the healing. The more I take care of my emotions and become aware and know what's going on in my body, the more I don't want negative energy and stuff around me. So it's not a case of, the old me probably being like, "Oh, Jo, you're getting really boring now. You don't drink, you don't this, you don't that." But I don't need to drink to have a good time.
mm,
And like, it makes me feel like crap. I mean, I had the last show I did, you have to take like sugary stuff before you go on stage, to kind of like, it's to do with the glycogen levels in your muscles and just to like hype you up and that. I think I had like, now bear in mind, I used to be able to demolish like probably 3 bags of Share Haribo and still be like, if there was more I would have it. I had like 8 Haribos. And oh my God, I was like this when I got on stage. It was like I had this, I was like
yeah.
high, shaking. And I was just like, oh my God, why was I doing this to my body? Like, as much as it tastes nice, it absolutely messes with your
Mm.
levels.
It's crazy, isn't it? And
'Cause,
especially because you'd probably stripped out so much sugar
yeah,
that that little hit was like, bam, it's
I,
like
I was like, oh my God, I feel wasted on 8 Haribos. Like, but
that's a cheap date.
yeah, the spiked this the heart rate and everything. It's like sugar is really bad on the body.
Isn't it? And I think that people again are just being brainwashed into thinking that this is all quick food and it's easy and it's like, oh yeah, give the kids some of that. I'm like, honestly, it's such a yeah, perplexing world that we live in for sure. But I
Crazy.
guess on the back of like everything you've been through and what you're now, like practicing and like moving through and all of the things that now, what advice would you give to someone that maybe is, where you're at or, something you would have said to your younger self? Like this is our like kind of soul to soul message that you'd like to share.
See, this used to be like movement. It'd be like get out and move, because exercise is like the best therapy for depression. And I still stand by that. But I would now say, like, wherever you're at, just try and take time to sit with yourself and get curious. Get curious and be compassionate. Speak to yourself how you would speak to a loved one.
Mm,
Your brain believes what you tell it.
absolutely.
And your happiness comes from within. You don't need the external, to make you happy. You can become happy yourself. And it's just one little stepping stone at a time. It doesn't have to be like, oh, from Monday, I'm going to eat so many calories a day. I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Just like pick one thing of self-care or devotion, as you would say, to start with. So maybe it might be just drinking enough water, or it might be doing your gratitudes. I think gratitudes, 6-minute diary, I would recommend if you've not journaled before, as a starting point. You can get it on Amazon for like 20 quid. It's like 3 or 4 months worth of diary, and it just, every morning it says 3 things you're grateful for. How are you going to make the day great? And then it gives you a little quote, and then at the end of the day it says like what great 3 great things happened today, what you're going to try and do better tomorrow, and what good deed did you do. And that, I think, even if you just did that, would change your life. It only takes 21 days to build
Make
a
it happen.
habit.
Yeah, absolutely that. No, thank you, Jo. Thank you for, opening up this conversation and just talking about everything that you have, because I think it's just I'm always saying this stuff all the time. So it's always nice when you have other people come in that are like, yeah, this is it. This is literally it. And like it just amplifies the reasons why this is so important and why it's changed, everyone's life that has actually dived into doing this thing, right? And we find our own way through it. Our journeys look different, but ultimately the goal is that or I say that it's not really the goal, but the full circle is that you feel completely different on the other side, right? And it's that healed space which everyone deserves to be in, for sure. But if anyone wants to follow you or keep up to date with what you're doing, I will put your socials in the description so you can follow you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've loved it. I love our chats anyway. Like, we chat quite a lot anyway, so.
Yeah, thanks.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you'll find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.